Okay, I'm Michael Willis. We've got another Team USA Tuesday here. I'm joined by the manager of Greco-Roman programs, Gary Mayabb. Gary's coming to us from South Dakota. Gary, how are you doing today?
Doing great, Mike.
Thanks for coming on. I appreciate you taking the time to answer some questions. I got a list right in front of me. Are you ready to jump into it?
I'm ready to jump in, yes.
All right, let's do it. Okay, so starting off, favorite movie?
A lot of those. Jeremiah Johnson.
Okay. Favorite musical artist?
Bruce Springsteen.
Okay. What's your favorite Bruce song?
Oh my goodness, I've got so many of those. I love the Nebraska album. Man, so many. There's just I like all this music. I've seen him in concert a lot, and so it's my favorite. Yeah.
Yeah, one of my mom is always a big Bruce Springsteen fan. You know, growing up in Philadelphia, you're pretty close to the border, so you.
Oh yeah, right.
There. My dad was from upstate
Yeah.
New York, and he was never a fan. And then they went to a concert, and then that totally changed my dad's mind on him. Which again, I don't understand not being a Bruce Springsteen fan from the get go, but apparently his performance changed his mind. My mom screamed for Rosalita as an encore for like 5 minutes, and then he finally played it, and she takes credit.
Wow!
I got him to play that.
Yeah.
All right.
That's awesome. No, and his obviously his concerts is, as he puts it, is part gospel revival. And they are, and the energy that is there, and just there's so many parts to it. So yeah.
You can't beat the boss for sure.
Well, and just his lyrics, they really touch people, and when you can write something like a screen door slams and Mary's dress waves, I mean, you can see it in your mind. So that's part of what I like about it. Yeah,
absolutely.
Good stories.
What is your favorite food? And then maybe what was your when back in the day when you were maintaining your weight to wrestle, what was like your go-to cutting weight, maintaining weight food?
Favorite food right now, Chipotle burrito. I mean, I can eat those anytime, and I just love the mix of it. The putting several good foods together and then eating it in one piece. That's a primo. And then my go-to back in the day was probably not really good, but it was a bagel and bananas, and those were the two things that a bagel could fill me up a little bit, and but wrestling 114 was a long cut, and so normally bagel and bananas.
Bananas
try to keep the potassium up on one side. What?
Wait, did the bagels go, or did the bananas go on the bagel, or are they separate?
No, they were separate. They were
okay. Good.
They were a banana was a meal, right? So probably not the best way to go. I know a lot more now, I hope, for our athletes now than what we did back then.
What's your go-to protein in your Chipotle burrito?
Steak. Yeah.
So what is did you play any other sports growing up?
I did. I ran cross country. I went out for football, but got booted off the bus first day. Went and got my gear, walked onto the bus. The high school head coach for wrestling was an assistant coach for football. And all of a sudden an arm grabbed me and said, go turn in your gear. And I looked at him like, really? And he goes, you're not going to make it. And he's right. I mean, my helmet fit me like a bobblehead doll because I weighed 62 pounds as a freshman in high school. So he said, you're not playing football. Go turn your stuff in. And I signed you up for cross country. So that's what I ran for 4 years. And then I pole vaulted in the spring. So enjoyed both those.
Pretty harsh life lesson to get pretty early on. I don't know if that would.
It was.
You have some helicopter parents upset about that.
Yeah, I don't. And I'm so fortunate that the two men that guided me. I mean, I call them every Father's Day. My father passed on my first birthday, And so the two men that really changed my life and altered it were wrestling coaches, my high school and college coach. And I call both of them every Father's Day I don't miss. And it's because of moments like that he had a firm hand, but it was normally spot on. If I had a bad grade, I didn't have a bad grade very long. So.
How did you get involved with wrestling?
Him. I mean, another coach that worked with those two were the two high school coaches I had at first. And fourth grade, they came over to the elementary school, and I was going through the lunch line, and he leaned in on me and said, "We have a meeting right after school, and you're going to be there." And I was like, "Okay, I'll be there." And that was that's how I got going.
How long did it take you to do a high school weight class?
I wasn't into a high school weight class until my junior year. So I took some really strong beatings for several years. So, but it was good. It was good for me.
Yeah. So besides wrestling, what is your favorite sport to watch?
Ooh, man, I watch football, obviously. I would tell you that the only time I watch basketball is NCAAs, and that's it. I never watch professional because I don't think they know how to play defense anymore. But no, I enjoy so many. I was able to coach soccer at the high school level for 10 years, and I enjoyed that. So I can sit down and watch a good soccer match.
Gotcha. Do you have any teams that you follow or support?
Manchester United. I mean, I had an opportunity when we were doing a UWW course in Manchester, England for a week. I got to talk to the right guy, and so right after it was done, they actually picked me up, drove me down to Manchester Stadium, and got to go in and have a kind of a tour of that facility and go through all their locker rooms. And it's amazing. It's old, and it's got tradition to it, but it was a really neat thing to see something, done at such a high level firsthand. So it was awesome.
Yeah, I can imagine. I was gonna make fun of you for being a front runner, but it seems like you've kind of earned your fandom in that realm.
Well, yeah, I mean, you're right. That's an easy one. That's an easy one to tag on to, isn't it? That's bandwagoning there.
So again, you might have to be a little political with this answer since you're a national team coach now. But who is your favorite wrestler to watch, either past or present?
Well, I don't know. I mean, I don't know. I watch. I watch film every day, and there's so many that I think. And I think what I'd really like to do is be able to take and somehow blend, maybe 8-10 wrestlers together to see what turns out. But no, there's, I mean, just even NCAA, just watching, athletes doing things where, I remember as an official, just watching, because of doing so much film work on them when I was coaching high school, and seeing it, and then you go to referee it, and it helped me so much because there was times where I literally held my call because I kind of knew what was going to happen, and it was that where they could get out of things that you think they're just dead to rights. They're just, this guy has done everything right. And I love those moments where they escape or they offensively counter so strong that you can't imagine it happening like that, and they just create it. And so I'm a huge fan of just, one of the things that Coach Lynn and I talk about a lot is just risk taking. And when you find that brave athlete that will take risk, and again, I'm not a big fan of gamblers. I mean, guys that just, that fine line between desperation and discipline, you know, I'm always looking for that disciplined person, but they've got such a bravery to them that they come up with things that there's no way that a human should be able to do that. So again, I don't, not to dodge it, I just don't know that I could name one. I really don't, because I love even, you know, just the freestyle side of it too. I mean, I enjoy watching those guys so much.
So for someone who's you know, wrestling is you know, one of the things that's center in your life, a lot of your life revolves around it. What are some of your hobbies off the mat, or when you have some time away from the sport?
I don't know that I just, this is, I mean, I know that, you know, my wife talks to me about the amount of time that, but I mean, honestly, this, and I hope it's not because it's the job, you know, because I really don't look at it that way. I hope that, I mean, I hope at some point I stop and there's a whole list of books that I haven't been able to read yet. I read a lot, but that I haven't been able to read, that I'm going to sit on a beach and do that one of these days. But I think right now, I really enjoy just what we just got through talking about. I mean, and I can watch film and just enjoy what's going on in front of it, you know, and I just think that, so right now, that's really, the good news is what I get to do is also part of my hobby. You know, I think that, you know, both shoulders have been reconstructed, and I didn't play golf good before them, and now I don't think I can swing a club. So I don't know that, you know, I just don't have something like that. When I was younger, you know, growing up, we would fish and hunt, but I don't like being cold now. So I don't fish and hunt.
Gary, you're dating yourself a little bit here.
I am. I know.
Oh, man, no shoulders, no cold. Come on.
Yeah, yeah.
So you can be funny, or you can be serious with this answer. What is your biggest fear?
Ooh. I'd say my biggest fear is just, you know, something happening to the health of my family. I mean, you know, there are times, Dorothy and I, we look at each other and we just like, you want to pinch yourself because you're so fortunate, you know, and we've got 3 beautiful daughters, and there's, you know, they're adults now, and, you know, the last one out of the home, and she's at KU and in architecture. And there are times where I look at it and go, I don't know how I got here, but this is pretty awesome. And so, and I would like to think I'm a fairly tough person, but if something were to happen to one of my children or our children, I don't think that would go well. I mean, I don't know what I would do, but I think that's probably the fear, right? The rest of them, almost everything else is just, we'll work through it, right? That one, I don't know that you have another great day, you know? So, yeah.
Yeah. So as far as fears go, that's one that's pretty rational.
Right.
Nothing wild about that.
You know, I think part of that too, unfortunately, you know, lost my brother the day we had first day of camp here, and driving in on that was a long drive. And so I think that's probably why that fear is right up front right now for me as well, you know, but it's one of those things that you know, it's family, right?
Yeah. I'm sorry to hear about your
No.
brother, Gary. You know, was there any part of you that thought maybe you weren't going to go to camp?
Well, I think there was some question on what I would do about camp, and spoke to Matt about it, and you know, communicated that. But I think that at the time it was just a matter of that. Unfortunately, he'd been put in hospice the week. Well, when we went to U23s in Omaha, that's when it all went down. And so at the time, that's why there was a little question mark there at the time. But, you know, after, you know, at the point that we lose control of the situation, then, you know, then we have to adapt to the situation. And so at that point, you know, he was in a better spot and in a better place. And so now it was time to, and we're, you know, the other thing is we knew that because of COVID, we were going to do services after the fact. So we're going to do them this spring coming up once we can get family together and do all those things. But so not to put it down on on the interview, but yeah, I think that's why family, it's there every day, but I think it's been right up there, the whole time. I mean, obviously when you go through something like that, he's with me now and obviously in my heart and thoughts. And so you turn around and you use that energy back to like right now, we're in the middle of a camp where people are chasing dreams, and, we want to be an active part in helping them get what they want.
Yeah. So with the camp, I think you said there's 17 athletes there,
right?
In South Dakota. What has that been looking like, and how's that organized? Because this isn't the first training camp you guys have done. You guys have been kind of doing these steadily through, this routine period, staying in line with state and local guidelines. How have you been hosting these, and specifically, how's this one going?
Yeah, I mean, it's going great. This is the fourth one we've done. There's so many positives happening. So yeah, there's so many positives that's going on, and I think that those things are. I'm just super impressed with how these guys are working, and they came in. We've done multiple days of training and high rep, high intensity, and a lot of volume, and they've just managed it. So been very happy with them and impressed by them, honestly. The at seniors, I think that we saw a little bit of COVID shape, right? And did not see that as much as we got further into it. Like by the time we were at U23s and juniors, looking at the film, did not see that as much. But this group has come in, and the amount of volume and the reps that we're hitting. The other day we did a set where we just created chaos on our feet, and they went through an hour of that, and they were in unbelievable spirits. I think that, one of the things we talked about is that these guys are all so excited to be back on the mat with one another. That's been a big part of it. Yes.
So I've heard from a couple smart people that, in times of adversity, it's sort of when you get to grow the most and learn the most and find out what you're capable of. I think that's true in sport as well, and with these guys that have not had ideal training situations that are still doing their best to improve.
Right. Well, I think you're absolutely right. I mean, I think that any time that you go through something that is trying and it actually tests you, I think that you're seeking that way of producing something positive out of it. And I think that a lot of times we can go back in our past and look at times where we're really challenged. And I think that's when we do see growth, and that's what we're after. And so I think that we talked about this morning about the fact that we've got 2 days left, and these should be the best 2 days. And because of the things that they're working on and the timing that they're getting and those kinds of issues, this is the next 2 days. This isn't a finish camp out strong. Don't let camp wear you down. And right now there's no signs of that. They've been awesome.
Yeah. So last month, again, like you stated, you were out at the U23s and juniors, and it sounded like you liked the way the guys were coming in shape and ready to roll. What else did you see out there?
Points. 3 years ago, we started looking at point values and what point totals look like and points per minute and things like that. And those kinds of issues, I think, are really big. So
at the senior level, we've qualified out of the 6 for Tokyo, which matches the 2016 quad, and we still have the last chance qualifier coming up. Junior level, we had a fantastic run at Worlds 2019, bringing home 3 medals and having a finalist.
Right.
And then at the newly implemented U15s, We cleaned up. We did fantastic. So I guess my question would be, what is kind of the, how do you feel about the progression of the USA Wrestling Greco program at the moment?
Man, 77 and 130, we feel good about what that's going to look like going back to Sofia. That is two of our strongest and deepest weights in the U.S. And we've got leadership there, and we feel good about that. We were so close to being perfect coming out of Canada. And again, to get top 6 and get all 6 through, that would have been a dream come true. And we felt good about it going in, especially at those 2 weights. And again, what Pat had done in the Pan American Championships, wrestled great there, wrestled well again, but fell a little short in that match that we needed with the one that he had earlier in the week. And again, he's a consistent goer. He's every time out, he's going to create chaos on his opponents and get points. And so we felt really good going in that following week. Also looking at, at 130, again, if there's not a shift in that bracket, from Pan Ams to, and again, it's not just a new bracket. It was the fact that was going to be a 7 person bracket. And if that would have happened, then Adam could have fixed whatever side that he was on. He was capable of fixing that, and he demonstrated that. And so, it's how sport works, right? There's moments and there's days that are not the way that we wanted them to be, but boy, we're super happy that we've got 4 sitting there qualified right now, because so many. We just got word the other day the Oceania Championships are canceled, and they're just going to have to go straight to the qualifier there in Africa. And so we're so fortunate that we are not in those. As most of those people got their championships in, but they were not capable of getting their qualifier in. And so that's still, there's some people that's got some work to do right now. And we know there's going to be a short turnaround between Penn State and our final qualifier, or our Olympic trials piece, and the final qualifier in Sofia at the end of the month, there, the 29th of May, so 29th of April. So when we look at that going into May, that's going to be an issue that's going to be a quick turnaround at 77 and 130. But again, 2 of our best weights, right, depth wise. So.
Yeah. And I'm sure whoever is going to get the nod and earn the nod, I should say.
Earn the nod, yes.
To be, ready to go. But how tough are those brackets going to be? How are 130 and 77 going to be at the last chance qualifier? And what is that? What are those wrestlers going to need to do to get those weights qualified for the red, white, and blue?
Well, I mean, I honestly, it's going to take everyone's best effort. Between now and then, it will take everyone's best effort. Again, how well we can get through the final trials there in mid-April, and then turn around and follow up. But we in this quad, we've had 3 different situations where we had to have a 1-week turnaround. And the athletes showed they've been able to do that, twice in a row, where we had Vegas in 1 week, and the following week we had Pan Ams. The next year, we had Pan Ams, then Vegas. Then the following year we had Vegas, then Pan Ams, and they were a week apart. And then this year, going into Canada, we had Pan American Championships, and 6 days later, Pan American qualifier. So the short turnaround. And I think there's a time there where the guys that's gone through, especially like Adam and Pat, wrestling at major Division I schools, that turnaround between, in their cases, Big Tens, the Big Ten tournament, and 2 weeks later, you go Big Tens and then turn around and you got to go right into nationals, right? And so I think that in some cases, the American system of wrestling, there is a time where we've demonstrated that, and just like that, you're going to have to be at your best twice in a row, and it's so hard to do that. We know that peaking quite often is planned out to be biannually, but right now we're going to see athletes really, and that will be the depth of their training that makes that happen.
At the age group level, last year we brought home three medals from Junior Worlds. How much of an indication is junior level success to senior level success, and how are you feeling about the crop of age group athletes that we have coming through the ranks right now?
Well, the first answer is that it coincides very well. There's correlation between, when you look at international, you look at the situation where you have a young man that won the cadet world championships, okay, and a year later won senior worlds, and that's the indicator right there, and defeated 2 world medalists. And so when you look at those kinds of things, we've got to continue. These 3 are very special athletes that you're talking about, and I think that we all think they've got a great, bright future, and we've got to finish up that project though. And it is a great starting point, but as you know, making that jump to senior, that's another whole indicator. It's a great indicator to start with, but the work that we've got to do, and the work that these coaches have done with those 3 athletes in particular, I mean, they've got such solid backgrounds to them. They've all got a pedigree where they've been with great coaches, and they're currently with outstanding coaches that will make a difference. And so I don't think that anybody's going to take their foot off the gas. And I think that will be what at the end of the day, we believe in not only those 3. I was looking forward to, cadet worlds this year, with what the coaches around our country have done with our age group athletes right now is really special. And, we had 5 world champions coming out of U15s from 2019, and we were looking pretty forward to the opportunity to see some of them go into cadets and see what that looks like. And we look pretty favorably with all of these. And again, that we're starting to see some depth there, and that's the other side of it that we think is propelling some of this action forward.
Yeah. So as the manager of Greco-Roman programs, obviously, a lot of videos, a lot of traveling, training camps, working with the athletes. What's your favorite part of your job? And then what's the most challenging aspect of your job?
Favorite part of the job is getting out and being in the home environment, the home training environment of these coaches that work with the athletes every day. Getting out, and I've been on the road really hard for 2.5 years, right up until COVID, and just being all over the place and being in other people's rooms and as a guest, and that's my favorite part, because you get to meet those people in their home environment, and it's what they've built, right? I mean, we're here in South Dakota right now, and what Terry and Lisa Pack has done here is absolutely incredible. They've taken where there's nothing in Beersford, right? Beersford, South Dakota, and they've made a wrestling training center, a national wrestling training center. And when you watch people that work, around the clock almost, to make something out of nothing, and then to share it out with national teams, and that's what I love about the job, because you get to walk in. They've dedicated 10 years of long days to make something happen, and they provided a home for athletes to come in. And so when people welcome athletes in from the outside, and then you get that connection and that mix, that's the best part of it, what I get to do. The most challenging thing is probably when we have to, I don't know, reconcile, I guess, at the end of the day, how we didn't get done what the athlete wanted. When the athlete tells you when they speak out loud and tell you what their dreams and goals are, and then you watch them work for those goals, and then at some point when the goal doesn't get the dream, the goals that you set down to work through doesn't match up to achieve the dream, that's probably the hardest part of the job. I mean, seeing that's it's soul crushing. And so I think that's probably the most difficult part of the job. But on the other side of that, the turning around and getting to see the next crop of people that walk in the door, the challengers, the competitors that walk in and say, we're ready to take up this charge. I mean, that'll revitalize you, right?
Well, and I can, my least favorite part of the job has been interviewing the wrestlers after they've been eliminated from the world championships.
There you go.
It's heartbreaking. And again, you see these people that have invested their whole life into something, a once a year event, and have laid it all on the line to get there, and then to come up short. It's heartbreaking. And I can't imagine, and that's me as a media person. And of course I have a vested interest in Team USA and I want all of our athletes to win. But you as a coach, that's a whole nother level. That's like a whole deeper connection. And you've been side by side with a lot of these guys, the whole way. So it hurt me, my job, when that happens. So I can't imagine how much deeper it cuts you and the coaching staff when the guys don't get where they want to go.
Well, I would say the only thing I would comment on that, first of all, I absolutely agree with you. I mean, it is hard when you stand next to them and you realize that it comes across to them that it didn't happen the way they visioned it. And that's so hard. On the one part that I would say though, is that I'm very fortunate in what I get to do every day to be around those people. But when I say around those people, I really mean that for the most part, it's their personal coach, right? It's that coach that's been with them. I mean, I got a couple of profiles today that you and I are working on, right? About getting these profiles on the athletes. And I received one this morning. It was so awesome because he named two coaches and said that they've been with him his entire career. You know what I mean? I mean, this is where that coach saw something, maybe pulled this athlete out of the cafeteria to get a meeting, right? Whatever their story is, and has been with them since day one, walking them forward down this. And it started out at local tournaments and it ends up at the world championships. And so obviously hats off to those guys. And I'm fortunate enough that I get to stand behind those two as they walk to a mat or in the back where they're warming up. And so again, that's with it though, right? It's not just the athlete, it's watching that coach reconcile the fact that the outcome for the athlete that they worked on since that young person didn't even have an idea that they would end up overseas at some point and actually do all the work it takes to compete at that level. But both of them to watch them, it's not the best part.
What do you think the best advice you've received in your career has been, or a piece of advice that stands out to you?
I think it's always about long-term consistent effort. I think that, and again, I maybe meld this from several people, but we value people because most of this discussion that we've had today is about the individuals that make up the great sport that we get to participate in. So it always starts and ends with the people. At the end of the day, there's that balance between task-oriented and people-oriented, right? And I try to err on the people-oriented part, but we do have a task in front of us that is the highest calling there is. I mean, and so I think that when you value people and you praise effort, and I attempt to praise effort, and then performance is rewarded, but it's also, like we talked about earlier, there's also a crushing side to that. But so I think that's probably the greatest advice I've had from the coaches that altered my life and changed, how the outcomes go. I think they were every one of them was a consistent person that the lights would flip on at 5:30 in the morning, and you had a job to do. And so, but I don't think that I ever lost track that they honestly cared about me as a person and wanted success for me. And that I hope is what we try to project now with our athletes, because I've often wrote my former coaches and said, I owe you a debt that I cannot repay, but I promise I will try to pay it forward to the next group. And so that's where I think the lesson is.
In a similar vein, and you kind of touched on it with that answer, but what advice would you give to maybe like someone that's just starting in the sport? Like, we're talking about a kid that's like lacing up his shoes for his, first week of practices.
Well, I would tell that person to find joy, wherever they can find joy in the middle of the fight. That's where I would tell them, because without finding the joy in the middle of the fight, you just can't stay long enough in this sport to do something that really, really changes your life, alters the direction and course of it, and leaves you with lessons that last the rest of your lifetime. And the greatest part, the friendships that come from that. I mean, just, the week that we've had up here, I mean, people texting and it just, that's the thing. I mean, my favorite holiday is Thanksgiving, and we just had that. And the amount of communication I have with lifelong friends, that most of them have come from time on the mat together. Those are things that at the end of the day, you can't tell that brand new wrestler, you're going to go out and do things that's really going to hurt. But the joy that you will get on the backside of it, with the friends that last a lifetime and all those things, that doesn't matter to them at that moment, right? Because they don't know that. So they have to find joy somehow in the middle of the fight that they're in, because later on they'll get a lifetime of the rest of these things that the sport provides for us, if you do it right. But it's getting that start right, and not having it go, having them walk away from something that will definitely alter and change and advance you.
As a wrestler, where did you draw your motivation from? And as a coach, is it that same place, or is it something different?
There's a transfer, I think. I mean, like I said, I was so fortunate to be led by the people that I was under, and they motivated me. And I've been fortunate enough that I've worked in the area of psychology and taught it at the high school level, and taught human performance psychology. So I was very fortunate to have an understanding that motivation comes from within. It's someone doesn't motivate you. But I do think that the way that my coaches operated and the standards that they set and what they demanded from us, it did motivate me. It gave me hope that there could be, a better outcome tomorrow based on what I do today. And so I think that's the first part. The second part is, as a coach, I fully realize that I'm not the motivator. But again, what we can do is establish a great training environment for them, that they be, their internal motivation, their intrinsic motivation makes those, supports the dreams that they're setting, right? And the goals that they've set down. So.
I got one more question for you, Gary. Then I'll let you go. But what is your best wrestling memory to date?
Wow. It's like asking me my favorite Springsteen song. I mean, I pinch myself that I've been able to, be on the mat with champions over the years as an official. And I've got to raise the hand of people that worked unbelievably hard to get what they wanted. And those are all great memories there. And then probably the greatest memories is just watching athletes get what we've talked about on the negative side to actually get what they wanted and to have it come through. But, you know, and many memories are tied to just the relationships that we have with people now because of you were a part of their struggle. You were a part of their journey. And I think that's probably the collection of my greatest memories is you know, I had an athlete one time that called me and I answered the phone. It was 2:00 in the morning. And I thought, oh my goodness, has something happened? You know, and I answered the phone and it was before caller ID. And they said, Coach, you told me that when we had children to give you a call. And I said, yes, absolutely. And he said, we just had our first. And I said, where you at? And he told me a hospital and it was close by, and drove over there that night, you know, and got to sit with them, and amazing stuff there. Right. I mean, it's their greatest day, you know, and they're going to share it with us. So pretty cool. We have an awesome responsibility, but what an awesome, I don't know if you could call it a job, but it's an awesome situation to be involved with things like that. And those are probably some of the greatest memories.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Well, Gary, I really enjoyed talking to you. I
Always.
You coming on and giving us a little insight and answering some questions, but you know, thanks again, and good luck with the last 2 days of camp. I hope everybody finishes strong.
Oh yeah. This group is, our future is looking good. So we're excited. Thank you for everything you do.
This has been another edition of Moments Off the Mat. Oh, excuse me, Team USA Tuesday. I'm Michael Willis for Gary Mayabb. Thank you very much.